Welcome to Greek for a Week. I'm glad that you have decided to be with us this week, and we are looking at Philippians chapter 3. The main paragraph that we're looking at is verses 1 through 6. However, this week we are just going to consider the last three verses, 4, 5, and 6. So here is verse 4, here's verse 5, and here's verse 6. We'll begin by translating each of these verses, and then I'll have a few comments for you on some grammar and some syntax. Paul says here, although I myself had confidence also in the flesh, if anyone else thinks he can put confidence in the flesh, I myself far more. Circumcised the 8th day, of the race of Israel, tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew of Hebrews, according to the law, a Pharisee, according to zeal, a persecutor of the church, according to righteousness that is in the law, being blameless. So what I want to show you today is a couple of things. Most of them will be related to verbal forms. But let's look first at our kai pair. The kai pair is a concessive conjunction. And I translated that although. So really what we're saying is that ties into verse 3. So if you recall the end of verse 3, he mentioned the ones who worship by the means of the Spirit of God and boast in Christ Jesus. And they do not place confidence in the flesh. So here Paul's saying, hey, they don't place confidence in the flesh, although I could have, if you will, I had confidence in the flesh. And then he begins to discuss basically his pedigree here in verse 5 and verse 6. So really that's our tie back up to verse 3. The ekon here, ekon is our present active participle, masculine nominative singular of echo. Then I want to show you here you have a perfect active infinitive of patho. So that's our poi thenai. Okay, so that infinitive there, indirect infinitive, indirect discourse infinitive of a verb of saying or thinking, and that would be the doke here. That would be the word for think. Again, you notice that I put I myself for ego. Okay, that's placing ego in somewhat of an emphatic form. So I chose to translate that as I myself. Then you have for verse 5, you have the first word, the peritame. That is a dative, form of the dative here. Okay? And probably a dative of reference. So I think the following words in both verses 5 and 6, I think that further explains what it is that he's saying in verse 4. So he's saying, if anyone else thinks he can put confidence in the flesh, he's saying, I myself, I can do it in a far more significant way. And that far more significant way would be verses 5 and 6. And he lists all of those things. The ek genus Yisrael, here we go. Okay, the ek here would be a genitive of source. So he is basically sourced in or of the generation, race of Israel. You also have another ek over here, Hebrew of Hebrews. And then notice you have several uses of the kata, which is a prepositional phrase. According to could also be translated with reference to. I think here it denotes, as Varner says in his Baylor Handbook, it denotes a relationship to something. So in this case, according to the law, or with reference to the law, he is a Pharisee. According to zeal, what does he do? He is the one who persecutes, specifically the church. And then you could say, according to righteousness, which is, and again, here's our article in front of a preposition which nominalizes it, according to righteousness, which is, and then in the law, he is being blameless. Okay? And then verse 6 here, the diokon, again, diokon participle, again, probably a substantival participle, the one who persecutes, present active participle, masculine, nominative, singular. And then your last one, gena, menas, is also a participle here, aorist, middle participle, masculine, nominative, singular of genomai, probably of the attributive form, attributing the quality of blameless to Paul here. A lot going on there, a lot of markings you'll see on the screen. I hope this has been helpful. Verses 4, 5, and 6 of chapter 3. Have a great week. We will be diagramming verses 1 through 6 next week.